3D printing in pharmaceutical technology. What is it? Let's find out today in our podcast.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So welcome everybody to our podcast, Excipient Talk, brought to you by galenIQ. And today I am joined by Marcel Enke. Hello, Marcel. How are you?
Hi, Michael. How are you? I'm fine.
Great. So, Marcel, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, I'm a chemist by training and studied here in Jena chemistry and made a PhD also in the academia world. Then I stayed 3 years in academia and mainly focused on polymer synthesis and either way for self-healing polymers or also for organic batteries. I was a scientist there. And then there was an opportunity to join Laxon in 2021. And I joined as a project manager at this time. And funny-wise, yeah, we were 2 people or employees with Laxon. And since then, we growed quite a lot. So at the moment, we are in between 15 or 20 at the site in Jena at the moment. Since this year, I'm head of innovation and formulation strategy. So we have some more project manager included into the company, and I'm overlooking now the in-house projects we have as well as customer projects we do.
Okay, great, thanks. So you mentioned Laxon Medical and 3D technology, printing technology, but how is it actually applied in pharmaceutical applications?
Exactly. So what we do basically, and before this, I would like maybe say 2 sentences about Laxon itself. So it was founded 2018 and have the worldwide rights to do this 3D printing in the pharmaceutical area. And what we typically do is our patented SPIT technology, which means basically the screen-printed innovative drug technology. And the technology itself basically is very old, and you can do 2D screen printing with several different materials. So, for example, in the semiconductor industry, it's typical you can do money printing and, of course, label printing. So, for example, on T-shirts or on some elements. And now we added the 3rd layer. So we're building up the tablet layer by layer. So we have an additive manufacturing process, but we start with a paste. So we do not have any powder blends, but we use then later on for a tablet press, for example. But we have a paste with all the ingredients for the pharmaceutical industry. Is also using, we mix this, then we print layer by layer, and then we have a final tablet.
Okay, great. So you say then you have a final tablet. So what are the key differences between a 3D printed tablet, let's say, and traditional compressed tablet?
Exactly. So typically, a compressed tablet is, of course, homogeneously distributed, all the excipients and the API pressed into a tablet. And there, of course, of the compression, you have a hard tablet, which have a low variability, hardness, and whatever immediate release or extended release behavior you want, you have the different formulations in there. And additionally, you have, of course, this convex or concave structure because of the swellability or of the exactly. And then maybe it's coated or not. This is maybe basically the description of a normal compressed tablet. And in 3D printing, tablets differ, of course, in the outer design, because it's quite challenging to make these these convex or concave structures, we have a little bit more sharp edges. And therefore, the design of the tablet must be good for the patients to swallow them.
All right.
But basically, in our process, we also obtain very hard tablets and as well with low friability. And therefore, in the first look, the patient would not see a difference. Yeah? Of course, when you look very close, you see the layers, but our process is quite like sharp, and we print always on the same positions. Yeah? When you compare this, for example, then with other 3D printing technologies, for example, SLS or fused deposition molding, for example, there you extrude in a melting process your paste, and there you see much bigger the difference.
Right. Yes. Yes. I've seen some photographs, and they don't often look like tablets.
Yeah.
So how does the role of excipients then differ in 3D printing compared to the conventional tableting?
It is a very interesting part, because why we make a paste in the beginning. We have mostly a water paste, or we can also use some organic solvents as additives. But because we are mixing the excipients and the API before with water and make a suspension out of this, some excipients are not suitable for us. So, for example, the disintegrants. We studied these a lot because our technology offers that we do from immediate release to the very long-ranging release. We can make all of the releases basically, which can different other 3D printing technologies cannot do this, because if you melt this, you need a polymer which is going to melt, but these polymers have a higher molar mass, and so extended release, for example, is their field. But for example, then Aprecia, which is a company in the US, which have the first approved tablet, which is 3D printed, they only make binder molding. So this means they spray binder onto the API. This is quite brittle. So this is, of course, very, very good if you make ODTs, but they cannot do extended release. So, and because we have this water paste in the beginning, we can build all the releases out of this. But for example, immediate release, we had a different challenge, because these disintegrants basically have the functions to swallow or to gel, not to gel, but to stick in a lot of water. Yeah? Suck this in, and then they get bigger in size. And of course, this also happens into the paste. So we had great results using, for example, 8% into the tablet of these disintegrants, so polyplastone, for example, or the sodium cross-camelose. But our paste was not stable, because the disintegrant was taking water in all the time. And after 2 hours, you had no good printing behavior anymore. But the tablets, they are quite fast. So with these formulations, we had 3 to 5 minutes, and the complete tablet was in the dissolution gone. But then for process stability and all the stuff, of course, we could not use them. So we use now, for example, calcium silicate into the paste, to only get water in to the tablet, and then trigger the dissolution or the disintegration. And there we can also do fast immediate release.
Okay, so that avoids the swelling.
Exactly.
The continual swelling. Yes. Okay. So have you also tested Beneo excipients in your process?
Exactly. So in our immediate release formulations, for example, and also we at the moment want to do oral dispersible tablets, so very fast immediate release into the mouth. And of course, the Beneo has the isomalt, with very nice immediate release functions and some other advantages there. And we replaced it basically with other water-soluble fillers.
Okay.
And there we tested quite a lot of your types and found it out that two of them work quite well, also with the 3D printing method.
Okay. Are you able to say which of the two
Yeah, sure.
it was? Yeah.
These are 720 and the 800. These
Okay.
two
Right.
work
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 720 is an agglomerate,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the 800 is a milled grade. Yeah. So are you able to say anything further about the observations that you saw with those?
Basically, these two were very good printable. So,
Mhm.
and the paste is stable up to 24 hours. The other, as we tested another type. So, for example, with the 3-to-1 ratio of sorbitol mannitol, so the 721 and 801, and
Yes.
funny-wise, these were very bad in printing
Okay.
behavior.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. I'm sure that's something we'll be following up in a
Exactly.
later date. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for me, 3D printing, I don't know anything about it, of course, but to me, I always think, well, now how could that be really used in the pharmaceutical industry to manufacture
Yeah.
products, So how do you see the future of pharmaceutical 3D printing?
Yeah, I see it as a very innovative technology to get new oral dosage forms produced. But of course, it's not a replacement of the compression, no? Because this is a very century-year-old technology. We've had a lot of know-how, and you can, of course, print, not print, but compress the tablets and produce them very fastly. No? Also,
Yes.
the 3D printing is not for the paracetamol tablet we can buy for some cents. It's really for patient target dissolution, for example, or pharmacokinetic profiles, which where you need a special function. Because, for
Right.
example, when we build up the layers and the later tablet from the beginning, we are quite freely with the design. No? For example, we can make a tablet into a tablet and then make, for example, 2 doses a day in 1 dose, for example, no? Because
Right.
then we can delay the second release quite easily, yeah? And repeatedly defined. And this is possible. Yeah? And what we also do, for example, is sequential release of APIs, which would be multi-layer tablets. And this is possible also with compression, but if you do, for example, 3 or 4 layers of different APIs or release profiles, then it's getting hard also in the conventional technologies.
Right.
And here I see quite the advantages to make combined products or do quite interesting patient-designed pharmacokinetics.
Right. Yeah. So like customized medicine, yes. And obviously that's amazing if you could think you have several APIs sequentially being released, which is really unrealistic for a normal tablet, when it's more than 2 or 3, I would say. So yeah, it definitely sounds that it's got a very strong future. And I'm looking forward to find out more again and again about this topic. And thank you very much for joining today and your insights and your information. And I hope we see each other soon in face-to-face at some event in the near future. And thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So, everybody, thank you for joining today in our podcast, Excipient Talk, brought to you by galenIQ, and we will see you again soon.